the dialogue of life sa Mindanao Week of Peace. We are working for peace, not only here but in different parts of Mindanao. So I was thinking maybe we could start with a recent letter for peace by, you might say, two major religious leaders. And this is the joint statement of Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, that is based in Egypt, Abed Al-Tayyib. And that came out in February 2019, maybe just before the COVID pandemic came in. And towards the end, I will also explain about the theme of the Mindanao Week of Peace, coming home. Maybe just offhand, I would like to ask how many of you have heard about this joint statement before in the past? Because in a way, it's a historic first because it's the first time that you might say two of the highest leaders of religious communities, you might say from the Christian Catholic side and also from the Muslim Sunni side, coming together. It was also the first time that a Christian religious leader went to the Middle East and to enter into this kind of joint statement or declaration. So we will just follow maybe the phrase, the PowerPoint. I will explain it briefly. So the significance is it follows an earlier document of Muslim religious leaders addressed to Pope Benedict XVI about, I think, 50 years ago now. But that came from Muslim religious leaders in different parts of the world, saying that a common word, which is really common values, that both Christianity and Islam also promote love of God and love of neighbor. So the two greatest commandments are the ones also being followed by both Muslims and Christians. It was also the first time a joint statement between two of the highest religious leaders. It was addressed to the peoples of the East and the West. So practically the entire world.
Sige, salamat guys. Salamat po sa invitation.
Faith in God. This is the opening statement. Faith leads a believer to see in the other a brother or sister to be supported and loved. And we can all subscribe to that. Whether we are Muslim or Christian or even Hindu or Buddhist, we all say that our faith is to see in the other a brother or sister. So we talk about the Islamic city of Marawi, which is one of the tourist brochures before. It was really a beautiful city before the siege of 2017. But that has now, maybe we continue with the document. The document invites all persons who have faith in God and faith in human fraternity to unite and work together as a guide for future generations to advance a culture of mutual respect. So again, these are the two religious leaders talking to their own religious communities. And for whom? Again, the statement, these are all in quotations, in the name of God who created all human beings, equal in rights, duties, and dignity, also in the name of innocent human life, in the name of the poor, the marginalized, the orphans, widows, and refugees, in the name of victims of destruction, calamity, and war. How is the joint statement supposed to be implemented? Well, here we declare the adoption of a culture of dialogue as the path, mutual cooperation as the mode of conduct, and reciprocal understanding as the method and standard. So again, the keyword dialogue is invoked here. Well, this was a picture of a dialogue meeting we had among 12 Catholic bishops and 12 religious leaders of Islam. This was held in April 2018, which was about only maybe 5 months after the ending of the Marawi siege in 2017. So this was held here in Cagayan de Oro. We tried to discuss how to move forward after the Marawi siege. So here again, we continue with the document, God and Final Judgment. We who believe in God and in the final meeting with Him and His judgment on the basis of our religions and moral responsibility, call to spread a culture of tolerance and living together in peace. Muslims also believe in the afterlife. They also believe in judgment of one's life after death, similar to what we Christians also believe. Call to intellectuals and religious leaders, all of us here, to rediscover the values of peace, justice, goodness, beauty, human fraternity, and coexistence. So this is the paradox of modern times mentioned in the dialogue. Despite many advances in modern civilization, there is moral deterioration. There is still atheistic, agnostic, or religious extremism. So that is the paradox of high technology, scientific improvement in our lives, but you might say a lack of maturity in our own belief in God and reliance on His providence. So this is part of the war disruption in Marawi, in Ground Zero, and this is really part of that paradox that you have development but also war. A world in conflict, a third world being fought piecemeal. This was mentioned by Pope Francis. There is also a buildup of arms. There are still injustices and inequitable distribution of resources. So the buildup of arms now in Ukraine and Russia, also in the Middle East, is, if you put that parallel to what would have been spent for food security, for the development of the less developed countries of the world, there should have been enough for everyone if there was no, you might say, extravagance in spending for arms. Again, another picture of the destruction in Marawi. So the key value in the document is still the family. The family is the fundamental nucleus of society and humanity. Education and moral formation of children is still a key. So in Marawi, we also had a Salat Institute burned down. And that was certainly a tragedy for maybe the UCCP and their mentors. The Cathedral of St. Mary's in Marawi was also destroyed in a sense. Well, this is myself and our visit with some bishops there to Marawi. So the key value of the document is religious education and moral formation. Also, God as creator of the gift of life to be acknowledged versus, you might say, threats to life, threats to genocide, terrorism, forced displacement, human organ trafficking, abortion, euthanasia. So in a sense, this is all part of the culture of death, vis-a-vis what we would like to promote, a culture of life. What is then the role of religions? Religions must never incite war, hateful attitudes, hostility, and extremism, nor must they incite violence or the shedding of blood. This is a picture of some of the Catholic bishops when we visited Bishop Edwin de la Peña of Marawi. This is part of his cathedral. The front, it was already a bit destroyed by the incursion of extremist groups. Against terrorism, the document also has a statement on that. God the Almighty has no need to be defended by anyone and does not want his name to be used to terrorize people. So this comes from the religious leaders of both Christianity and Islam, talking to their own communities, that there is no place for using the name of God to justify violence. Convictions in religions. Again, our religion should be rooted in the values of peace. Freedom is the right of every person. Justice based on mercy is also needed. Dialogue and a culture of tolerance. Protection of places of worship. And terrorism is deplorable. So again, these are brief statements that remind all of us as believers that these are parts of our conviction in our religious traditions. This is the rooftop of the Cathedral of St. Mary's in Marawi. And the rain was coming in, and you might say the place was, in a sense, unkempt because of the coming in of the rain. Dialogue among believers means coming together in the vast space of spiritual, human, and shared social values, and from here, transmitting the highest moral virtues that religions aim for. So, this is another concept of dialogue among religions. In the past, sometimes religious communities would come together to debate who has the best or who has the truth. But now I think our religious communities are invited to come together to dialogue, to try to find out what is the best in our own religious traditions and to share that with one another. Diversity of religions is another point in the statement. The pluralism and the diversity of religions, color, sex, race, and language are with by God in His wisdom through which He created human beings. So even the diversity of religions, some conservative Catholic groups were taking to task Pope Francis for this statement because according to them, there's only one true religion. So how can you say God would allow a diversity of religions? But when he was asked about that, Pope Francis simply said, this is a sociological fact. We're not talking about theology here. We're talking about sociologically, and there is pluralism of cultures and religions in the world today. So this is some of the defaced icons or statues in the Cathedral of Marawi. Because on the first day of the outbreak of the violence, May 24, 2017, which happened to be the feast day also of the prefecture of St. Mary's in Marawi, some extremist young people came into the cathedral and tried to burn down the cathedral. And they even showed on their own cameras, they had a video of it shown later on to the public. They tried to, you might say, destroy some of these icons or statues. So against terrorism, terrorism is deplorable and threatens the security of people. But this is not due to religion, even when terrorists instrumentalize it. So it is a good reminder that religion itself does not invoke terrorism, but many or some extremists will instrumentalize religion for their own, you might say, activities of terrorism. This is a picture of the bishop's house at the back of the cathedral. Actually, Bishop Edwin de la Peña himself would say, don't call it a cathedral, just call it the main church of the Christians in Marawi. Because it's not really a very large imposing kind of building, but in fact it is almost partly hidden from the main road itself. Protection of rights, full citizenship versus the term minorities. So again, the idea there that when you call a group a minority, you are implying that they do not have full citizenship. So it is better to call them by their proper name. Maybe the Higaonons would be part of that. Or even the Muslims. Don't call them a minority. They are full citizens in our country. The rights of women to education and employment. The rights of children to a family environment. The rights of the elderly, the weak, and the disabled. These are all endorsed in the joint statement. Also, the sharing now of the joint statement to all religious leaders. In fact, towards the end of this document, the two religious leaders make an appeal that this should be spread out among our religious communities. In schools and formation centers, it is an invitation to reconciliation and fraternity, and also closeness between all who have faith in God. So again, the starting point is that we are all believers, and we are all believers in one God. And for Christians like us in the ecumenical movement, we are all believers in Jesus Christ. So the moment we come together, this agreement says those who do not even believe in God in the first place. This is the entrance to Marawi City, and it's also, you might say, a boundary line. So we go on to the theme for the Mindanao Week of Peace, which is peace is coming home through harmony and solidarity. With this, the background of this stories of theme is that there was consultation amongst illegal in Malawi. What would be the inspiration? And many of the Muslim women said they want to come home. In other words, coming home for them is making the return to Malawi. So we thought that that would be a major theme that we would discuss. And the first meaning of coming home is for the internally displaced Muslim families in Mindanao. In fact, let me read the full explanation. Coming home for the internally displaced Muslim families in Mindanao has been their constantly ever since the siege of their Islamic city in May to October of 2017. Many of these families continue to live in transitional refugee centers. Others continue to live with relatives in prime quarters in nearby barangays or cities like Iligan and Cagayan. Thus, coming home for many Muslim families would mean returning to their birthplace and familiar surroundings in Mindanao. So that is the first meaning of coming home. A second meaning is the spiritual homecoming of families, where there is respect for human dignity and loving care for all members of the community. So again, let me read the full explanation. Together with this physical coming home is a return to the basics that create a home in the first place. Respect for the human dignity of every person of the household, from the smallest to the most senior, across generations. Loving care for every member that extends to neighbors in the wider community. It is the spiritual homecoming that is more enduring and all-embracing. And the third meaning of coming home is coming home for the entire island of Mindanao, with appreciation for its various cultures and religious traditions. Here again the full explanation. In this sense, a return to the basics of love and just relations challenges all of us to create a wider hope for the entire island of Mindanao. Respect for human dignity and appreciation of various cultures and religious traditions can create a new tapestry of harmony, representing our solidarity and forging of lasting peace. And the end, may this Mindanao Week of Peace 2023 extend throughout the year as Mindanaoans working for peace and coming home. So that is the meaning of coming home, and that is also, you might say, the extension of the joint statement of Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar on human fraternity, that we are all brothers and sisters coming home in this island of Mindanao. Maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Archbishop Emeritus Antonio Ledesma. Kabalo ko nga dagan tag mga pangunahan